Practice and hold on to our own particular faiths, the way that we have found God. But always be willing to be in conversation, visit, talk with, and affirm that God is working in other people in other places in other ways that we could never imagine. And be willing to support God's work in the life of other people. Now, I could stand here and talk about that for the next 20 minutes, which is usually what a sermon is, or we could actually practice what we preach. Rather than me just talking about God's work in other places and other people and other ways in the world, the support of that and the acknowledgement of that, I thought we'd practice that conversation today. I have the honor of having a friend of mine here with me this morning, Dr. Akif Aydin, a Muslim scholar, a family man, a businessman, but most of all, my friend and a friend of this church has come, and we're going to chat today about our experiences and our living out of our faith and our knowledge of God in the world. So Akif, come. May I call you Akif while we're on the air? You want Dr. Aydin? Akif is fine.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us this morning.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much, my friend. Really appreciate for the kind invitation and your kind words.
Thank you. Thank you. This is Epiphany for us. It's a part of our Christian calendar, our Christian telling of the story of Jesus through the year. This might be informative even for some of our members because we all sometimes lose touch with some of the facts of our own faith and faith practice. But our Christian year actually starts 4 Sundays before Christmas. That's when the Christian year starts, or the liturgical year. We have 4 Sundays of Advent to prepare for Christmas. We celebrate Christmas. After Christmas, we celebrate Epiphany, the visit of the wise men. And then really from Christmas till Easter, we tell the story of Jesus in our worship. Up until Lent, which is about 5 weeks before Easter, we talk about the crucifixion of Jesus, the resurrection of Jesus at Easter. Then 50 days after Easter, we have Pentecost. Jesus is ascended into heaven and the Holy Spirit comes. And for the rest of the year, we talk about the work of the church or the work of the Spirit in the world. And then it all starts over again 4 weeks before Christmas. And that's kind of the cycle of our worship and the way we practice our faith and worship. I think it would be helpful for me, and I think for our folk to know, in the Islamic tradition, is there a cycle to the year or particular holy days that kind of drive the worship throughout the year?
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank you again for your kind invitation and thank all First Baptist Greenville members who are listening us this morning. You have been so generous and so kind throughout several other events we have done together in the past. Again, I'm so proud to be here. Yes, in Islamic tradition, there are holy months and holidays. So the calendar the Islamic tradition follows is not the solar calendar. It is the lunar calendar, so it's rotating every year. For this year particularly, in Islam there are 3 main, I will say, holiday periods. One is before Ramadan. Month of Ramadan is the center of the year, basically where the Muslims are fasting throughout the month. But prior to the Ramadan, there are 2 other months that, in fact, it's the warming up for Ramadan. So it's called 3 holy months. Those are for this year, it will start in February up to May. Then after Ramadan, like about 2 months right after Ramadan, there is another very important holy time period, which is the time for pilgrimage, the Hajj, where the Muslims goes to Mecca. This is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. And so basically 3 holy months and the month of Ramadan, the month of Hajj, the pilgrimages are 3 important holy periods in Islam.
Yeah, you're probably more familiar with Christian calendar.
Correct.
Than we are with the Islamic calendar. So thank you for sharing that with us. Although we have hosted your first night of Ramadan here at the church before in our fellowship hall, and that was quite an honor for us.
It was a wonderful event we had over here. Yeah, it was so great.
Yeah, in promoting today's service, it's interesting. I don't know if it's a Freudian slip or what it was, but it's actually the sermon title today has been promoted 2 different ways. I think the original sermon title was Our Common Affections, and then it got promoted as Our Common Connections, and then I've seen it both ways in promotional material this week. But I like both of them. I like that we're really talking about common connections and common affections. And I don't know where we were recently, but you and I were together 2 or 3 months ago, and I'm not sure what that, we end up being together a good bit in interfaith, interfaith dialogues and panels. But I mentioned Mary, and you mentioned to me that Mary was a significant person, was mentioned in the Quran, and is honored in the Muslim faith. And that was something I had not heard before, that this person who we have a lot of affection for in Christianity was somebody who is mentioned and honored in the Muslim faith as well. And I wanted you to share some of that with us today.
Thanks so much. First of all, I'm from Turkey, the eastern part of Turkey, but I'm not the wise man that you talk about it.
No, you are the wise man that we invited today.
You're
the wise man.
Thank you. So, in fact, Mary is so important and revered in Islamic tradition, and let me start with my own family. My mother's name is Mary, in fact. And so my youngest son, I have 3 children, and I named my youngest son as Muhammad Isa. Isa in Islamic tradition means Jesus. So I have a mother, Mary, and a son, Jesus. So it tells how it's important as a Muslim to respect and revere both Mary and Jesus. On the other side, when we look at the Quran is mentioning about Mary and Jesus in a highly revered way. And in fact, in the Quran, there are 114 chapters. And one of the chapters is named after Mary. Chapter 19 in the Quran is called Chapter of Mary. And Mary is the only female mentioned in the Quran by name. So when we look at the Quran, how Mary is mentioned and how Jesus is mentioned, it's very interesting. There are 3 main stages in the Quran talking about Mary. First, about her father. It's interesting, the chapter 3 in Quran is named after Mary's father. According to Islamic tradition, Mary's father's name is Imran. He was also a prophet, but his wife was barren and they didn't have any child and age. And he asked from God a son in fact. And then God miraculously gave, his wife became pregnant, and his wife, in fact, in the Quran, it's the wife of Imran said, "My Lord, I have vowed to you what is in my womb, dedicated, so accept from me, you are the hearer and knower." So that is the prayer of Mary's mother. And then when she delivered her, in fact, that's during this pregnancy, it's interesting, and the Jewish people were expecting Messiah, Jesus Christ, and that they expected that Mary's mother, in fact, she was pregnant to Jesus. So when she delivered a baby, it was a female, not a male. They were all shocked because they were waiting for Jesus. Yeah. So then also Mary's mother was shocked, and in the Quran you see this shocked, and she says, "My Lord, I have delivered a female." And God was well aware of what she has delivered. And the male is not like the female. And I have named her Mary, and have commended her and her descendants to your protection from the Satan, the outcast. So that was her dedication, and after that it says, her Lord accepted her with gracious reception and brought her a beautiful upbringing and entrusted her to care of Zechariah, as according to Islam is another messenger of God. In fact, that whenever Zechariah entered upon her in the sanctuary, because according to the Islamic tradition, Mary's mother kept her promise and left Mary in the childhood age to the temple to be dedicated to God. And it was, Zechariah was her protector. And whenever Zechariah would enter in the sanctuary, he would find her with provision, such as the fresh fruits, grapes, many other things. And Zechariah asked, "Oh Mary, where did you get this from?" And she said, "It is from God. He provides to whom he wills without reckoning." So you see, in fact, Mary was, by her nature, was so holy before her birth and during her childhood and also her youth. And then according to Islamic tradition, Then again, on the chapter 19, where the chapter is named after Mary, God mention in the scripture, Mary, when she withdrew from her people to an eastern location, she screened herself away from them and sent to her and we sent to her our spirit, and he appeared to her as a man. It's interesting, according to Quran, God has sent angel Gabriel to Mary in the appearance of a man. So what was the reason of this visitation? And in fact, when Mary was secluded in her room and saw Gabriel, and in the form of a man, she didn't know it was an angel, a man. She said, I take refuge from you in the most merciful, should you be righteous. And angel said, I am only the messenger of your Lord to give you the gift of a pure son. She said, how can I have a son when no man has touched me and I was never unchaste? Then angel said, thus said your Lord, it is easy for me. We will make him a sign for humanity and a mercy from us. It is a matter already decided. So that is in the Quran it tells about how she got pregnant. But it is very important to understand during that tradition, she was the only female in the temple among all the other male. And now she got pregnant. And nobody will believe that was a revelation, that was a holy plan. And so if you think about Mary's age was about more probably 17, 18 years old when she got pregnant, according to Islamic tradition, you cannot imagine the agony she had, how she would describe and explain this to her people. I think that's very important. And then after that, when she had the labor pains came upon her, and she in fact secluded herself with him in a remote place, because she wanted to go away from the people. That's part of tradition. And when the labor pains came, and she was under a palm tree, according to tradition, and it was interesting that Quran delivers her feelings. It tells, Mary said, I wish I had died before this and been completely forgotten. She was by herself according to tradition. She was not married to Joseph at that time, according to Islamic tradition. And she was about to deliver Jesus. And she was in the labor pain, and more than the labor pain, about thinking how she would explain to the people about this baby. So then there is another miracle, in fact, is according to Islam, it tells, do not worry, your Lord has placed a stream beneath you, and shake the trunk of the palm tree towards you, and it will drop ripe dates for you. So eat and drink, and be consoled. And if you see any human, say, I have vowed a fast to the most gracious, so I will not speak to any human today. Part of the way that God planned, according to Islamic tradition, told Mary, don't worry. So your son will tell to the people, not you. So, and it is in Islamic tradition, in fact, Jesus was going to protect and defend her mother in the age of the childhood when he was born. And then she came to her people, carrying him. Imagine the story, just kind of try to imagine. In fact, there is a great episode, 11 episodes, is telling about Mary, about this in the Quranic perspective, and it's available on YouTube. If you search Saint Mary in Islam, I think you will find this episode. It's great to really watch it. And I would kind of ask everybody, imagine Mary as a young, holy lady, and dedicated her life in the temple, now pregnant without marriage, pregnant without a relation of a man, and now she delivered the baby, and baby on her arm, and coming down to her people. And this psychology is kind of very difficult to comprehend. And then she came to her people carrying him. They said, oh, Mary, you have done something terrible. Oh, sister of Aaron, that's how they kind of address with, to honoring someone. Your father was not an indecent, nor was your mother unchaste. They are immediately blaming her. Right. She was fasting. One of the fasting form in that time was not speaking, just be silent, quiet. And so she pointed to him, to the baby. And then they said, how can we speak to an infant in the cradle? And then Jesus spoke. And he said, I'm the servant of God. He has given me the scripture and made me a prophet and has made me blessed wherever I may be and has enjoined on me prayer and charity as long as I live, and kind to my mother, and he did not make me a disobedient rebel. So this is, everybody's shocked then. This is an evident miracle because a baby is now speaking to the people miraculously. So in the Quran you see, in fact, there are much more details about later on about the Jesus miracles, what he did, later on throughout his life. But I think today, like you mentioned about our common affection, our common connection, and see that, in fact, we have a lot of common connections as Muslims and Christians, because eventually we believe in the same God. There is only one God created you and me and everyone over here. He's the Lord of the universe and the Lord of us. So I think serving Him together in meaningful way, it might be in different language, in different form and format, but that's not important. The intention is important. Really, the way that sincerity is important. Understanding that we are all belong to Him, our Creator, and will return to Him, and will unite over there. And the last part I want to also mention about the common connection, like Christians, the Muslims are waiting for Jesus Christ. And then the Muslims believe that He will return. He will return again to invite everyone to God.
Yeah, two things that just, my mind went two different directions. I was listening, but I did daydream a couple of times. One was, I love in the prophecy of Mary's birth that the Quran instructs the people to be a protector of Mary and her offspring, which we oftentimes try to pit the children of Ishmael and Isaac against each other, or Christianity and Judaism and Islam against each other. But inherent in all of our own scriptures at some point is this idea of loving each other and protecting each other from the evil in the world. The other place my mind went is when you mentioned that you're from Turkey, which I did not know. Thanks for. I went to Turkey for the first time a year ago this week.
Wow.
I was in Turkey and went to Ephesus, but was not able to visit this particular site. But one of the traditional burial sites of Mary is in Ephesus in Turkey. And that comes from when Jesus was dying on the cross, he told John, one of his disciples, to care for his mother. And John eventually became the pastor of a church in Ephesus, which is where he would have taken Mary. And tradition is that she is buried there, and the home of Mary is still in Ephesus. So it's amazing how these things keep crisscrossing and touching base. You and I have enjoyed a friendship for some time now, and you have certainly enjoyed a friendship with our church. And as I've said earlier, you and I tend to end up on a lot of interfaith panels and councils and talking with other people. I'm wondering, we live in such a, I don't know, our world is so tense right now. Our own nation is very tense. And it was one of the reasons that I wanted us to visibly be sitting with each other and talking about faith. I know of your work with the Atlantic Institute, but I'm wondering from your perspective, sitting here today, thinking about these wise men who visited, thinking about affirming each other's faith and supporting each other, what are some things you're thinking about or working on right now that are helping people love and affirm each other in their distinctiveness, particularly in the area of faith? What are you thinking about, or what can we be doing better than what we're doing right now?
I think what you have done today is one of the best ways. As you said, you do not speak only, you practice. That's wonderful. Inviting someone belong to different faith tradition, it is not easy. I understand. Therefore, I appreciate every one over here to be so kind and receptive to listen someone out of their tradition. So I think that this should be done by every other tradition. So let's say I wish that we had someone Christian come to the mosque and to deliver the sermon with the imam in the mosque. I think that this is very important to address on our commonalities. I think during this the pandemic especially, now we as a human being, I think we all collectively have remembered about our nature, We are, in fact, in this era of modernity, our egos went so high that we kind of distancing from God and from religion. I think eventually we remember we need God as a faithful people. That's very important to remind each other about being patient and to returning to God is very important. And especially during this pandemic, to stay in solidarity is very another important thing, because I know that caring about the poor, caring about the needy, caring your neighbors, caring your friends is so important in every tradition, especially in Christianity and in Islam. So when Christianity and Islam tells care about your neighbor, it doesn't tell care about your Christian neighbor or care about your Muslim neighbor, right? Neighbor is neighbor without any discrimination. So I think remembering those facts, that because I live in a neighborhood, about 99%, maybe except me, everyone else is Christian. So like for me, I think just caring them and being with them is very important. So we have a quite, I would say, large number of the Muslims and maybe other faith traditions people live in the upstate. I would highly recommend to reach out someone different than yourself, your tradition, your culture, and try to really be authentically friend and care about them and see if they need anything that you can help. I think eventually going beyond of yourself, beyond of your own tradition is very important, because that's what I believe, that Jesus came and brought such a message. Because if he came to brought the message of God to humanity, that's very important, to look at each other as a human fellow, not as a Christian, not as a Muslim, not as Turkish or American, as a human fellow in the reflection of God is a very important, will create that bond between us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like this morning that in our own ways and in our own holy text, we've kind of stayed true to the story of the text, and because I know that I had never heard all of those stories from the Quran that you read this morning, and thank you. And I know in Christian tradition, staying true to Matthew chapter 2, that the Magi actually go back to their home countries and they continue to be who they are, is much truer than the legends that we create. In fact, we've created a lot of legends about the Magi, that they become missionaries and become saints. I mean, it's just amazing the stories that we've created, but that's not really true to our text. Our text is much more open in its view. So I think being sure that we're together as human beings and neighbors, but also bringing our faith distinctives and saying, this is the real truth of what the text says, and it really does affirm this greatness of God that cares for all of us. And I love what you said before the service today. We were talking about the pandemic, and you worded it in a way that I thought was beautiful, that this pandemic may be God using this to invite us to decide what is really important in our life. And I don't know, that's been true for me. The pandemic has invited me to decide what are some really important things in my life. And this is one of them, to
exactly.
treat neighbor as a neighbor.
You just remind me something else. Prophet Muhammad, when he came after about 610 years after Jesus was born. And then when, according to Islamic tradition, the revelation came to him, most of his people, like other messengers, same way, they objected to him and they persecuted his immediate followers and believers. To protect his immediate companions from the persecution, he recommended them to go to another country. It's called Abyssinia, today it's Ethiopia. Mm-hmm. And then he said, go there. There's a just Christian king over there. You can be safe under that just Christian king. Mm-hmm. And in fact, Prophet Muhammad recommended his own companions to immigrate from his own town to a Christian land under a just Christian king, so that until he would feel that there's a safe ground for his followers. I think that is a kind of important message to the Muslims and the Christians too. So the protection, we talk about it, right? It is not only about our own people. It is about the different traditions, and we see this happen during the life of Prophet Muhammad too.
Yeah. Keith, thank you so much for being here today. I know that our time is up and we have to end this service in this time, but this has been so valuable, and the Spirit in me honors the Spirit in you. And thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for this kind invitation. I'm so honored to be here today, and thank you for everyone who listened to us today.
Amen.